before we get started, I just want to go through what you're going to need for the practice. So we do need our regular props, a blanket, a block, and a bolster, but anything around you will do. So if you don't have a block, you might have a book or something nearby. You might have pillows or a blanket that you can fold up and make it a little more dense and supportive. So blankets, beach towels, pillows, anything like that. We're using a candle tonight just to have the mood lighting, and we will use them at the very end, but you should have a lighter with you, because at the point we go to Shavasana, we're going to blow out all the candles and turn off all the lights, and then we'll illuminate after the fact. You also need a stone and a peace sign or some type of an object that you want to use to put your good energy into. In the past, I used to cut a yoga mat up into peace signs, and everybody got a peace sign. Everybody got a stone. This year we had to forage for ourselves. And then my friend Lynn used to give everybody an artist trading card on the way out that had a nice motivational quote on the back of it. So I'm going to challenge you all to go Google motivational quote and see what comes up for you after class tonight. Let's get started. I want you all to mute your screens, please, so we can eliminate the shifting of screens. If you're playing the playlist to have some music, it's important that you have your screen muted so we don't hear that jumble of sound. And you'll probably want to put me on speaker view. I'm going to keep you guys in your little postage stamps thing so I can see you all. And if we're all on mute, then it will stay on speaker view, so you'll be able to see me throughout the class. So make sure your screen is muted. And let's go find a seat. Sitting on something that supports you so you feel nice and tall and grounded. I want to thank you all for coming to this. This is probably the biggest shift I've had to make in translating something we used to do in the studio into something that we can do on Zoom. It was a very personal practice when we all gathered, and the studio was small, so our mats were literally mat to mat, and there were 50 of us, almost like today, and it was a very intimate and deep practice. And I think given the year that we've had this year, this has the potential for being something that we reach deep into ourselves with. It's an opportunity to look back where we've been and to start turning our gaze forward and seeing where we're going. And I think it's a good thing for us to do. This is a quiet practice, so I'm not going to talk a lot after these first few moments. I'm going to give you a reminder to stay present as much as you can through this practice. And one of the best ways is to feel your body, but also to feel your breath. And if we can do that right now, finding a comfortable, workable seat, we'll sit with the spine nice and tall, putting the shoulders right over the hips and relaxing our hands on our lap with the palm facing down. A mudra of calm abiding as we take this seat on the shortest day, longest evening of the year. Bring your gaze forward and down, and you can close your eyes for this practice for these next few minutes. And then take your awareness into the rings of your nostrils, feeling your breath in its natural state. Allow yourself to relax into the natural rhythm of your breath moving in and out. And to start reacquainting yourself with your body. We've been living our lives today. We've been doing things, and our attention is external and away from our bodies. So we'll bring it back. And in the darkness of our eyes closed, we'll remember that the winter solstice is a turning point. We go from the darkest into the growing light. And this has been a dark year. It's been a challenging year. So it's good to remember that even the darkness has lessons for us. And as we reflect back, I want you to open yourself to the possibility that many of these dark things that have happened this year have brought with them lessons and learnings and growth. And they may have also triggered some of the energies that we may want to rebalance today, the energy of the different meridians of our bodies where we balance fear and wisdom, grief and courage, anxiety and calm, and anger and compassion. So we're going to call those things to us with a simple reflection of rewinding and going back through the year, remembering the good and the bad and the indifferent from 2020. And I'd like us to start with the moments of celebration. Rewind back through 2020 and think about the things that made you happy, that you celebrated, that lifted you up. And that can be wonderful experiences, or it can be people and relationships. Just let those images float right by your inner vision. And notice any emotions that arise with that and where you feel them in your body. Conversely, we also have moments that didn't feel like celebrations. But all of these down experiences, they have a way of helping us move forward. Sometimes we're attached to the feelings of grief that surround bad experiences or challenging times. And the Buddhists say that attachments and the things that we cling to are the things that cause suffering. And when we let go of suffering, when we let go of our attachment, suffering ends. Things that we've attached to this year might be physical, they might be material things that we've attached to. But they almost always seem to be psychological and philosophical. The way the world has been running this year, a lot of things have been turned upside down and inside out and challenged our sense of logic, our philosophies, our ideologies. And when challenged like that, often we have emotional experiences that we attach to. Let's take a moment and just reflect back and see if we can identify some things that we've been attached to this year. Things that we didn't want to let go of, and things that we held on to dearly to keep our bearings. I'm going to share an invocation that a friend shared with me a few years ago. She attended the studio maybe 2 or 3 times a year. She came and visited with her husband, and she happened to come right around the winter solstice one year, and she shared what she and her friends practice in Ohio. And I've included it every year since then, and I think it's a wonderful way to invoke what we need to invoke tonight. May we be in the union with the divine energy of the universe. May we be free of the obstacles that keep us from that energy. Distractions, false voices, illusions, and misconceptions. May we replace our fears with faith. May we have the capacity to abide in the mysteries put on our life's path. May we give up the need to know why things happen as they do. May we understand that we are here to learn. May we all become balanced and conscious beings. May we all live with honor, creativity, integrity, endurance, commitment, compassion, harmony, and mercy. May we all discontinue to finance the past or past memories with our energy. May we all remember that we don't walk this path alone. Gently open up your eyes and find your stone. As best you can, try to hold the stone in your hand. And as we do the next couple of yin poses, I'm going to coach you through a little bit of energy, and you can bring up the things that you want to pass along and get rid of with a sense of gratitude and a sense of memory for the lessons that you gain from these experiences. Everything that we imbibe into this stone will be something that we discard, and there are no takebacks once we discard this. So really feel what comes up in your heart as you practice this in this particular practice this evening. Our first pose is child's pose, so I'm encouraging you to make this comfortable for your knees and for your hips, and you may want to put a blanket underneath your knees, your shins, your ankles, if you've got sensitivity to that. As you're coming forward and placing your body, you might bring your arms forward just to help you balance. You may bring them around like a garland around your legs. You might even bring some support in for your head if you feel like you need a little more room to breathe. If this does not feel friendly to your knees, you're welcome to roll onto your back and just let the weight of your legs fold into your chest. As you get situated, start to soften your bones and soften the tissues that hold your bones. The ligaments and tendons are tough tissues. We're just going to let them relax. We don't want them to do something that they're not supposed to do, like letting go. But we can let go of the muscles. We can soften the muscles and the skin. And then feel the bones in their density falling into gravity a little more easily. As you find this shape, I want you to take a few deep breaths in through the nose and maybe out through the mouth as a sigh. So you're releasing yourself to the deepest place your body is willing to go, without force, without hustle. Place your awareness on your breath in its natural state, right in the rings of your nostrils. That's your home base. And as you settle into this experience in this particular shape, we'll bring our attention to the energy of the stomach and the spleen. And I won't go into exact details, but that energy runs through the front body. And when we fold our bodies like this, we're crimping those energetic channels, creating like a tourniquet effect. So when we release, there will be a flush of this energy and we can find balance. The energy of the stomach and the spleen is the energy of being at home and grounded and safe. And when we have disruption in this energy, anxiety is the offshoot. And we go from being comfortable in the body right up into the brain and the mind, and we live in the past or the future, in the things that feed anxiety and suffering. When we find balance in the stomach's energy, we find a sense of calm equanimity. So as we're spending time in this pose tonight, I would like you to think about the things that caused anxiety for you this year. Be a witness. You don't have to relive these anxieties, but just witnessing and remembering. And perhaps imbibing that anxiety that you experienced into this stone so you can let it go and make room for calm equanimity. And anxiety can come from anything that we worried about, anything that triggered self-doubt, or pushed us to a place where we felt inflexible. Emotionally, when we have anxiety, it leads us to crave sympathy and attention. Maybe we can recall when these things have happened to us this year. These are things that are bubbling up for you. Pass them into the stone if you're ready and willing to let go of them. Let's deepen our breath. And we'll gently withdraw from this pose by stacking up the spine one vertebra at a time. And if you're on your back, you can just simply roll to one side and then use your arms to prop your way up, bringing your head up last. We'll move now to seated. And our next pose is butterfly pose. For this one, I like to sit on the folded edge of a blanket. So you might want to grab a blanket to sit on. Just propping up your sit bones on the front edge of the blanket. And then taking your feet out in front of you, soles of the feet together. This is a little different than Baddha Konasana because we'll make a larger diamond with the legs. the heels at least a foot away from the inner groins. You might bring in or out, but just kind of feel your way into how your pelvis balances here. Pull the flesh back so you're on the front of your sit bones. In this pose, we're moving into the energy of the back body, where the kidney and the urinary bladder energy runs. And that's related to wisdom when it's in balance and fear when it's not. We're moving into kidney season today. And it is this sense of water in the body and in the atmosphere and the earth. So let's take a watery approach to getting into this. Maybe shifting the torso a little bit from side to side, bringing hands forward, and then using your arms to prop you, and then softening into the heaviness of the weight of your head as you let your chin fall in toward the chest and your head. Draw the stretch of your back body up from the sacrum all the way up the spine, over the top of your head. Our arms are perfect props for this. However, if you need a little support for your head, you might bring a block in to catch your forehead. Don't try to strain to get to the block. If you need a little bit of support or filler between the block in your forehead, you can use your hand flat, or I call it a potato, one potato, fist under the forehead. As you settle into the shape of your bones this way, take a few deep breaths again, in through the nose and a big sigh out of the mouth, so we're letting go of the tension of managing, and we allow ourselves to be here, to feel where we're making contact with the ground and the props, where we feel stretch, where we feel compression. Every single thing that we experience adds to the bank of wisdom that lies within us, according to Chinese medicine. And we've experienced a lot this year. Some of those experiences took a lot of energy from us, and when we use a lot of our energy, sometimes fear starts to arise. Fear starts eating more and more energy. It needs a lot of energy to feed itself. In traditional Chinese medicine, they believe that there are 3 forms of energy. The energy that we get from eating food and digesting that. The stomach handles that, and the spleen. The air that we breathe provides us with energy, but the kidneys provide us with prenatal energy, which is the energy we were given in our DNA, or as the yogis say, it's in our karma. It helps us fulfill our path here. But if we use up the energy of the kidneys, then we can't fulfill our path. And the way to recharge the kidneys, to rebuild that energy, is to relax and to rest. Fear is the opposite of rest. Fear is a contraction. Fear is that primal need to run and fight or flight. And often when we relax, when we're in a state of fear, it takes us out of that sense of fight or flight, and our vision becomes broader. We see more. We understand more. And often we find that what we were afraid of maybe got blown out of proportion. I'm famously nearsighted and terribly afraid of snakes, so for a long time I would confuse earthworms with snakes. I would run, and my husband would walk me back and show me that's a worm. So getting a little bit closer gave me a little more wisdom. So maybe there were earthworms that you mistook for snakes this year. Maybe there were some things that caused a lot of fear for you, and if you recall those things, you might let them go into this stone. But not without understanding the wisdom that you were shown through that fear. Sometimes we're afraid to feel sensation in a pose. See if you can breathe your natural breath with awareness. Feel how your breath meets the sensation that you're feeling in this pose. See if you can become calm and still with it, releasing yourself from the need to fight or run, or just be somewhere else with your thoughts. See if you can be present with what's here. When we release fear, we release ourselves into the flow of energy and light, like floating down a river instead of trying to swim up a river. Gently deepen your breath, bringing your hands into a place of support so you can guide your spine up one vertebra at a time, stacking from the bottom to the middle to the top. Head comes up last. And then we'll gently remove any props that are around us so we can shift our shape. Let's do this manually, taking your hands to the outside of the knees. Let's lift the knees and place our feet on the floor. We'll come off the blanket and then shifting onto our backs. We'll be moving into a spinal twist, so make sure that you don't have an open flame around you anywhere close. I would have a blanket nearby. If your hips are tight today, I'm going to say fold the blanket into a bench and then fold it in half and just tuck that between your thighs. And then dropping the knees into your chest, drop your knees over to the left. And allow your legs to become the heavy anchor of this spinal twist, letting the feet separate and slide to where they go. The legs may slide out and not be perfectly stacked, and that's okay. Sliding the left shoulder a little more to the left, broaden your collarbones, and then drop the weight of your right arm and your shoulder to the floor. Arm closer to your torso if your shoulder is tight. You might even take your arm overhead if you feel like you can handle a little more stretch in the shoulder. The right arm is the anchor for the other side of this twist, so play around and see where you're the most comfortable, the most relaxed in a yin sense, not a yang sense of doing, but just a sense of being relaxed in this twist. You can tip your head in the direction of your right shoulder and then softening all the skin, all the muscles, relaxing ligaments and tendons. And starting to notice that this promotes a stretch on the outside of the right hip. If you feel like you're not stretching at all, you might move the support between the thighs, maybe releasing it all together to feel a little more sensation. Excuse me. Take a few deep breaths, allowing the bones to settle here. The sensation of stretch excuse me, outside hip is related to the liver and gallbladder energy. And when that energy gets out of balance, frustration and anger grow. Frustration and anger, like fear, is a contraction. It takes a lot of energy. And the way to mitigate that is to go in the opposite direction, toward compassion. Compassion is like an open hand. Relaxed, receptive, offering and receiving. So as we're here, recall the things that made you angry this year. Let that anger soak into the stone that you're holding. Anger is kind of like holding a hot coal, and it only hurts us. Think about the things that were frustrating this year. Sometimes anger is a motivator and motivates us to do something differently. But if we get attached to the feeling of anger, then it doesn't motivate, it paralyzes us. It prevents us from moving on. And it becomes corrosive. Often anger masks fear. But if we can be compassionate, we can see that, and we can understand that we're humans and we're vulnerable. And that when things change and we have to release ourselves from attachments, that it can be frustrating. And left unchecked, frustration turns into anger. And left unchecked, anger turns into rage. And I think it's important to remember that anger isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a natural human emotion. And it is a motivator. We just have to recognize when we're stuck in it. And this is our opportunity to let go of the anger that's holding us back. And to open ourselves to compassion. Perhaps we thank the anger for pointing out what we needed to see. And we open ourselves to the compassion that we felt that. Compassion will help us make changes to move productively away from that anger. Let's deepen our breath, and we'll bring our arms closer to the torso. And then we'll draw the knees back into the chest, and we'll rest in the center place. We can put our feet down and straighten the spine if we've gone askew there. And then let's start over like we have never done this pose before as we go into the second side. So bring the blanket back between the thighs. Tuck the shoulders down, and then drop the knees into the chest and drop the legs over toward your right. Let the legs settle first. Let that be the home base. Try not to manage. Managing and strategy are the work of the liver and the gallbladder. Move the right shoulder a little bit to the right to broaden the collarbones and the shoulders, and then melt into the weight of the left shoulder. Place the left arm where it's adding to that sense of heavy density and not adding any sensation that's detracting from the stretch you're getting on the outside of the left hip. Adjust your blanket or remove it if you need to, so you feel an appropriate amount of sensation or stretch in the left hip. The stretch on the outside of the hip is the gallbladder's line, and the stretch on, or the compression on the inside of the hip is the liver. The liver and the gallbladder work together. The liver's energy is yin, and the gallbladder's energy is yang. The liver is in charge of strategy and getting things done. And we all had plans, we all had intentions that we put together last year, formally or subconsciously. And about 12 weeks in, things got changed. We had to shift our plans, we had to do extra things, we had to load our plates. Now the liver likes to be busy, the liver likes to get things done, but when we add too much, and we become crammed in with to-dos and tasks and things that we need to be responsible for, we have no room for compassion or flexibility. And that's when we get frustrated and angry. And often, when one thing breaks, everything breaks. It's like a house of cards. The liver is the yin part. The yang part is the gallbladder. And the gallbladder, that outside side stripe of the body, is the energy of boundaries, but it's also the energy of expansion. Taking those boundaries outward to learn more, to expand our horizons. And maybe we were challenged this year to expand our horizons in the way that we knew how to do. Maybe we were curtailed a little bit. If we like travel to learn, we couldn't travel. If we liked having new experiences, it was hard to have the new experiences that we were planning on. But like it or not, we got forced into new boundaries, and we had to learn new things. We had to learn how to use Zoom. We had to learn how to do things at home that we would go out and do. We had to learn how to be disconnected from being in person with other people. But we learned a lot about ourselves and about how we operate. And each of those nuggets of learning make it easier for us to make decisions and strategies and to get things done. So for the next few moments while we're in this pose, finishing it, I would like you to think about some things that were expanded for you, that tested you, that made you learn. And maybe we learned some unpleasant things, and we can let those go into the stone. Maybe we learned some useful things that we can carry forward too. Maybe we expanded our minds and our hearts. moments where our boundaries were tested. Or we tested others' boundaries. Deepening your breath. Let's gather the arms in, bring the knees in, settling into the spine, feeling yourself unwinding from the twist. Gently put your feet down onto the mat. And take a moment to come into neutral. Slide your legs out in front of you. If that causes any irritation to your low back, you can bring your knees back up and put your feet on the mat just to give a little more support to the low back. But feel yourself as a receptive sponge here, feeling the energy that we've been balancing, smoothing out and moving into all the cells of the body. We're not in fear. We've moved closer toward wisdom. And maybe we've released some anger and frustration and moved toward compassion. And maybe we are more grounded in the sense of being inhabitants in this body that we have, and less in our minds. Feel the stone in your hand and very gently bring your knees back into your chest. Roll to one side and then prop your way up and come into a seat. It's time to let go of the stone, to put it into a symbolic fire. So I want you to sit quietly, and I'm going to give us some time for this. Think about the things that caused fear and anger and anxiety, the things that were attachments that caused us to grieve deeply this year, the things that caused hatred, that took away our joy. The things that weighed heavy on us. Put it all into this stone, and when you're ready to release it, put it either by your candle or in the center of some candles. Put it on that paper plate or that napkin or that cup, and let it go. No takebacks. And then find a comfortable, workable seat. I'm again going to come on to a block. I have a little stability from my spine. You might sit on a cushion or a blanket or a block. Let your legs relax into the ground. Stack your spine over the pelvis, shoulders over the hips, and hands again calmly to the tops of the thighs, palms down. You can take your gaze forward and down. You can leave your eyes open if you're comfortable with that. If you prefer, you can close your eyes. I'm going to take 108 breaths to feel the process of letting go and realizing the space that we've created in that release. I'm going to count the breaths for us on my mala. So let's start by placing awareness in the rings of our nostrils and feeling the natural breath in its organic state. Staying tuned into the inhale and the exhale. And if it helps you keep your attention, you can count the breaths. Breathing in 1, Breathing out 1. Breathing in 2. Breathing out 2. I'm going to do it silently so you can have the space. If you lose your place, just start back at 1. It doesn't matter. big breath in and a big breath out. Feel where you are right now. Like this breath meditation, it was meant to be a bridge between what we've let go of and what we take in. We're in this place right between the past and the future. It's time for us to take into our hand our peace sign or whatever avatar we want for our intentions, and to hold that in your hand. And we will imbue our hopes and our aspirations into this in a pose that will give us a sense of being open to the growing light. So this is called fish pose, and to create this pose, have something to support your back, and it could be a blanket. You could take a folded blanket like a bench, and that's a moderate lift for the back if you don't want too much of a front opening. You might fold that in half to create a higher lift. If you have a bolster or pillows, you could use them. The higher the lift, though, the more you will need something as a pillow for your head. So I would try to place that support underneath the back of your ribs, and then having something to hold your head so your nose and chin go directly up toward the ceiling. You put your index finger right on the chin and the nose and make it level with the ceiling. That's a good place for your neck. You could do anything you would like with your legs. Your fish can be whatever your fish wants to be. And if you need a little more work with anger or frustration, if you want to be open to more compassion, you might take the soles of your feet together into a butterfly pose in this reclining state. Or you might take your legs all the way down on the mat in line with the sit bones, and then relaxing the weight of the legs. If that's too much on your low back, you might bring a rolled up blanket or a bolster under your knees. I want you to play with this. Create the fish that will open up your chest, open up your energy. And once you've settled the bones, taking that peace sign into your hand, or maybe even placing it in front of your heart on your chest so you don't have to hold it. Take a couple of deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, feeling yourself submitting into gravity, relaxing completely. And we'll call to mind the direction we want to head into in 2021. And maybe thinking in terms of energy rather than specific things, so we don't automatically get reattached to material things or experiences. So maybe instead of saying we're going to climb Mount Everest, we say we're going to head into the direction of courage, or wisdom, or compassion, or calm, equanimity, or love and joy. So maybe it's multiple things, but call them to mind and let them come into this object that will be your reminder as you go through 2021. As you navigate the path, it'll be like a compass for you. And in the process of setting this direction, feeling where you're headed, you might still feel what you've come through. Whatever is here, invite it in and let it flow through you. be nice in this pose with your heart open like it is. To envision the future as blank pages in a journal, unwritten. And the pages will get filled in moment by moment. All you have to do is bring your intentions with you into each moment to steer your way and to navigate as best we can, because we don't know what the future holds. Let's start to deepen our breath. Very gently stretch and roll to one side. Bring your peace sign or whatever your object is with you as you gently stack yourself back up to seated. Before we turn the lights out and have our final thoughts here, I want us to look at the candle and the stone and to bow in gratitude, to thank all of those experiences that we're letting go of today for what they've shown us. And to remember as we bow in gratitude that we're not reattaching. We're going to let go and release. So just take a moment, bowing in gratitude. And then I'd like you to turn your lights off, blow out your candles, have your lighter nearby. And then have a quiet seat, or if you prefer to lay down, we're just going to take a few moments of quiet. And I'll share with you a poem by David White called Sweet Darkness. When your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your home tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn. Anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. I'm going to invite you to light your candles, and we can watch the screen as we illuminate our spaces with this light. Even in the darkest moments, there's light, and it's coming. Day by day, we'll get more light, we'll get more hope, and we'll get further away from these things that we've let go of. We'll complete our practice today with the dedication of merit, and that means sending all the good things that we got from this practice out into the world for all sentient beings, including ourselves and each other and everyone who's not here today. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings never be parted from freedom's true joy, and may all beings dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Thank you all for being here. Let's bow together. Don't catch your hair on fire like I just did back there. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this ritual, this practice. I hope you feel lighter and hopeful.
Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome. Thank you.